Good evening, everyone. This is the Town of Halifax Finance Committee. It is Monday, January 13th. No, is it 13th? 13th?
13th. It is the 13th.
13th, okay, thank you. Monday, January 13th, 2020. The time is 7:04 p.m. On tonight's agenda, we have budgets, acceptance of minutes, public participation, calendar, and as may arise. Thank you, Linda, for posting and getting the agenda together. So first up, we have budget discussion. So Sandy has kindly started forwarding the FY 2021 budget to us. Sandy, is there anything you want besides what was in your email to?
No. If
Okay.
anyone wants all of the budgets emailed to them,
Okay.
I can do that. Just let me know.
Okay.
I figured I'd start with sending you your liaisons
Yeah.
and see how that goes.
Okay.
Poor Cheryl got bombarded because most of the general government ones.
Oh, right.
I spent 2 hours printing those
Oh,
today.
God.
Oh.
All right, so if you haven't yet, so I haven't reached out to all of my departments yet, but now would be a good reminder to reach out, introduce yourselves if you're new to your department in terms of being their liaison, and set up time with them. You can look at their budget ahead of time or look at it with them. Both is probably ideal. But just to refresh, because we've got folks who are new, and I think we've talked about this at different intervals, the role of the liaison to the finance committee is really to gather information to bring back to us here at the committee, not to act as an advocate for that department. You're not here to argue their case for them, but rather when we're having our broader discussions about budget and a question about a department that for which your liaison comes up, we'll probably turn to you and say, hey, what's up with this increase? Did you have a conversation about this? Because while there will be detail on the budget sheets, sometimes it's better to bring things up in conversation or to have a little bit of background information to explain things. If you have any questions about your role as a liaison, or if you want someone to go with you to your meetings, just let me know. I'm happy to do that. Otherwise, I know Linda circulated all the contact information, which was awesome. So now would be a good time, like I said, if you haven't already, to reach out to your departments and start setting up those meetings and chat with them about their budgets.
Call or email, doesn't matter.
Nope, doesn't matter. Whatever's easier for you.
Well, I'm thinking what's easier for them.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I personally like to email just so I have a record of what date I did it on and I can follow up that way. I find everyone's been really good about responding to emails and. Alright, is there anything else on budgets?
I think the committee just needs to look at your own 2 budgets, the expense and the clerical, because we haven't passed them in yet.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so thank you, Linda, for putting this out. We've got our expense budget on top. As you'll notice, we've been holding it relatively static in terms of the dues. The dues go to the Association of Town Finance Committees, the kind of umbrella organization to the Massachusetts Municipal Association, to which we're a member. A lot of us have gone to trainings and things. So I have not heard of any increases in their dues coming up. So I think we can assume the 180. And then we set aside money for trainings. So for us to go to the ATFC meetings, the MMA, or any other relevant training. So our last year's budget was $359, or our request was for $359 in the expense budget. Given that we've been asked for level service, we can consider if we'd like to suggest raising our expense budget. I think we've been ending the year with money left in our expense budget, right, Sandy?
Mhm.
Yeah. So I don't know that we necessarily need to. I think if something came up, we'd still be able to cover multiple people going to multiple trainings with this. With our this figure, but if anyone has any concerns about that or wants to advocate for raising the expense budget, now we can have a chat about it. Or if anyone's seen any trainings that they want to go to that might be budget busters. Okay. Then I will entertain a motion for the Finance Committee to request the amount of $359 for the Finance Committee expense line.
Make a motion.
So moved. Do we have a second?
A second.
Any discussion?
Remind me, what was the increase from 19 to 20? 125, 129?
That was the actual.
That's what you actually spent.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
So it could be classes that were attended, like at the convention.
Yeah. Usually those end up being 40 to 60 bucks per person if they're sort of one-day training. So you figure with 359 less the 180, we still have enough for everyone to almost go to one, probably, if they wanted to. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So we're assuming that. And next we have the Finance Committee clerical line. Alright, here's the, behind it too is the budget worksheet. Sandy, do you, this number doesn't take into account any proposed across the board?
No, we don't do that
Right.
until all the wages that are being submitted to you right now are being
Okay.
submitted at FY20 rates.
Okay,
None of them included across the board increase.
okay.
That if it's voted to recommend it at town meeting, I add those all in.
So I will entertain a motion for the Finance Committee to request $4,519.25 for Finance Committee clerical.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any further discussion?
Can you make it
Yeah, I was gonna say.
$4,520?
Yeah, I don't like the
We do
25
cents.
Sure, yeah.
We don't do pennies.
Okay, I'll entertain an amendment to the motion for $4,520.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Alright, we do have the full sheet of the FY 2021 requests at the back. I'm trying to think. Charlie, do you want to highlight anything, or would you rather we all go to?
Which line?
No, in terms of, we're looking at the full budget sheet now. Do you?
My biggest concern is, I mean, we don't have the elementary school budget,
Right.
we don't have the final, well, not final, but approved version of Silver Lake. I think those are gonna be the biggest challenges. As I wrote to you a few days ago, Gordon Andrews had sent over the draft Silver Lake budget, and because I'm expecting relatively no change in the state aid numbers, in the sense of, they might get the minimum per pupil aid, but on the other hand, they'll probably lose that from charter school assessments and things like that, so
Yeah.
it's a wash. I think it roughly went up $1 million from fiscal 20 to fiscal 21, given that then all the money to raise that is coming from the assessments, and given I believe we're at 30%, maybe a couple percent, maybe some tenths of a percent above that, we're talking 300,000. That, if I remember right, we were talking about 400,000, I think we had available after I already plugged in the knowables.
Yeah.
You know, it's the 10 pounds of flour in a 5-pound sack,
Yeah.
even if we got 5 pounds, I'm not even sure we got 5 pounds. I know they're gonna reduce it, and I think, you know, but I don't think they're gonna reduce it enough to make it affordable for us to say yes to that and even do the level service funding for the rest of the departments, let alone the elementary school.
Right.
That's my worry, and that's what I see. I don't think it's a movable object versus an irresistible force, but I think you're going to need to be working with Kingston and with Plimpton on the Silver Lake budget to come up with a total assessment that the 3 towns can afford.
Okay. Do you think then it's worth it for us to try to schedule another tri-town meeting for a little bit further out, once we've got the final numbers?
Yes.
Do you think that would be best in like February?
I think
March?
I'd have to find out from Silver Lake when they think they're going to come up with a final version. I think what you should be doing is staying in touch in the meantime.
Yeah.
In that, my hope is the finance committees and those other communities have gotten a similar, it's been passed along to them, and get a feeling from them what the reactions are, because we're going to be, out of the three, we're going to be at the low end on the assessment percentages. In the sense of not just the 30%, but the fact, if I'm making this up, if it's a 5% increase, let's say,
Yeah.
that's 4% for us, 5% for Plimpton, let's say, and 6% for Kingston, as an example. So if we're willing to stand in and argue the point of a certain level of overall assessment, it's much stronger because, I mean, maybe the finances for the two communities are in much better shape, but they're probably more apt to say, whoa, than we are even. And I'm saying, whoa, right now.
Yeah.
Carl wasn't pleased, I'll tell you that. Even with the 334 change, he was shaking his head like it isn't gonna work. So,
I think in their last meeting, they did tell us that and Fred, you might know for sure, there's a meeting like mid-February, isn't there? So maybe after that, if you're gonna schedule it.
but you also want to give them time, they have a bus, they're out to bid for a new bus contract.
Right.
Transportation costs being one of the biggest
Right.
increases, so we want to kind of wait and see if they.
Also, I
can
think
get that number
technically,
down.
before they make a decision, there's a budget hearing,
Yeah.
isn't there?
Right, so you wanna go after those.
And I feel like last year it was early to mid-March when we had both of the school committees in front of us with their final draft budget. So maybe if we could set our eye toward that for an in-person meeting, but keep in touch with them in the interim, especially as we start to have meetings with departments and start to fill in our own a little bit more.
And, you know, the communication also goes from us to them in a sense of, you can give them a heads up and say, no, we know you're still doing drafts.
Yeah.
But this is our state, this is what we can afford, which is, you know, what we tried to say to Silver Lake back in
With the
late
last-
fall.
Right.
Right, yeah.
We were talking 2.5, so they came back initially with 384, which they got down to 334.
Well,
But
but
that's just their number.
and that's the overall budget, that's not the assessment, they
Right.
add 50% to that for
Right.
the actual assessment.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm gonna make a note. So once we do start having conversations, again, for those folks who missed their first budget cycle, we're going to be working almost primarily off of these sheets and using these, the budget sheets from the departments as reference points. So when we do our votes and when we go through and make recommendations, we'll be referencing this sheet, so what line we're on, the description, the amount, right? But we'll constantly, because it's related to this, be going back to these lines and seeing if there's explanations on here, and if there's not, or if we have questions, that's when we'll turn and say, okay, Cheryl, you know, this is from your departments, did you have a conversation about this, why is this going up, or why is this going down? Sandy is kind enough to constantly be updating this and refreshing this for us, so I always bring the last one to the next meeting. I find that to be the most helpful, and then we usually get a new one, and that way I can carry over notes from the previous ones. But if you like to work off of your tablet or your laptop, we can set that up too. Anything else from anyone on budget?
Just to clarify, do you want me to send an email out to the chairs of Plimpton and Kingston asking if sometime, not specifically, but maybe around mid-March, they want to have a meeting?
That'd be awesome if you don't mind.
Okay.
Yeah,
Or even earlier.
It should be earlier.
yeah. I would just, yeah. I
No, I'm asking for the meeting around mid-March, you're saying?
Well,
The
they're
meeting
gonna
should
be
be,
finalizing their, you know,
yeah.
they're gonna-
So the meeting around mid-March or
I think you're.
What do you think?
beginning of March?
February?
End of
February?
End of February.
You guys tell me, I don't.
No, I know that they were in front of us like March 8th, 10th, around there
Okay.
last year. But I'm happy to move it to end of February if that gives us a little more time, and then maybe have the last meeting with the schools still in early March, and that way they'll have plenty of
Well,
lead.
and by the way, they're going to put in the article for the warrant officer again, which I knew they would. So,
Oh, that's more communication with the other two communities then, because as much as I believe the consensus for both, maybe, I don't know this for certain, but my understanding is from the finance committee, from the selectmen, is there's a consensus, okay, we could agree to having the middle school officer, but it needs to be in the budget. It can't be a separate.
Right, and did we have any of the kind of preliminary conversations about the financing structure? I know
I told her at the last meeting that we did not like the memory approach that needed to be in the budget, whether it was a school budget or if they want to have talk about putting these budgets or something like that, but that.
Yeah, because I think we were.
That I didn't think the finance committee would support
No,
an article.
I remember for the folks who weren't here, the Silver Lake put an article in the warrant for a new position, a part-time resource officer for the middle school. Our argument as a finance committee was on multiple levels. First of all, we hadn't seen any data as to the need for that part-time resource officer, but the kind of philosophical problem with having a position as an article as opposed to being in the operating budget, especially when we turn down other requests for new positions. But finally, the idea that we were happy to entertain the idea, but that we had to be brought to the table along with the other FinComs, along with the other chiefs and the other town admins, et cetera, to talk about this financing structure, because the idea that we would fund overtime pay for another town's officer was something that, and it's really the untenable nature of that position, right, we were displeased with. And I am misrepresenting our comments, but I think those were like the big three things that stuck out to us last year.
The other topic or conversation was the budget that they proposed didn't have in the new allied health person.
Yeah.
And both Carl and I felt that it should be in there. And the reason is they can get a grant for half of the cost. I think it's a $30,000 upfront fee. But then we get additional Chapter 74 money, which would actually pay for the position, plus would actually give us additional revenue. So it's like, okay, we'll pay the $30,000 up front, but then we're going to get additional revenue. The money coming in will cover that position plus bring in additional revenue. So it seems like a good expenditure because it brings in more money for other things. And not to mention there's been a high request for that particular program from other schools. In fact, they might actually be bringing in students from like Whitman and stuff like that. So again, the more people we bring into the schools through those programs, the more money we're going to get. So it seemed like, I mean, Carl was definitely open to that, so and it seemed to make sense to me that like, okay, yeah, here's a level set, you know, that's not in a level funded budget, but I could support that increase of $30,000 because it's driving revenue down the road.
Quick question for folks who were involved in the conversation. Did they build the nurse manager position into the operating budget, or are they presenting
Shared
as a-
cost. It's supposed to be a shared cost. I think that's how they're going to go.
Okay.
But I'm not entirely sure. Something like that. But that was not in the original budget as well, too. But I think they were going to try to put that back in.
That's what I heard. Okay.
I think we're talking about the same thing. I think in the email it said that it would be a wash, right?
For what?
The allied health position. And then
That's what I remember them saying at the meeting.
Yeah.
It would end up being a wash because we'd get money back.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. Oh, it's like next year, the money that we were getting from Chapter 74 would more than cover it. Plus, we would actually bring in probably even additional revenue on top of that. It's the most popular program they have.
All right. So we will keep an eye on that. So in the meantime, we'll talk to our departments. We'll start filling in a little bit more on our own budget, but keep the lines of communication open with the other FinCom chairs from the other towns as the budget for the schools develops.
Just so you know, that budget that I gave you, they were telling me that 98% of that number was based on fixed costs. So I think unless they can get the transportation costs down or start cutting people, and I mean, I hate to say cut staff, but the numbers have been dropping year after year after year, but we're taking $1 million increase like year after year after year. Well, our numbers go this way, the numbers go this way. I mean, it was like a 3.3% increase just on it's $450,000 $56,000 just on salary increase right off the bat. Before, and then of course the pension was crazy. That was like a 15% increase for Plymouth County.
Wow.
Yeah, they were stunned by that. And then the transportation costs are through the roof.
Because only one bus company is the only one that ever answers.
Yeah.
Why is that? That,
They have like regional monopolies
Yeah,
essentially.
it's like, there's probably some prearranged agreement that other companies don't.
so it's possible that we could get buses cheaper if we had more people that were bidding.
But
Yeah.
but at least they went up for bid for a change, so. that's good.
Right.
Yeah.
When would they project their A&D to be negative?
No,
Try it in the email.
Yeah, it was under 5%, I think it was $900,000, something on that order, so there's no redistribution.
Right.
But they have 900,000 in the ED.
Right. But they had a lot of capital items coming up that they said their A&D and their capital account would cover, right?
I don't know what they're hoping to do this year. To me, fiscal 21 would be,
Yeah, those capital plannings are coming up.
Did,
but yeah, I mean, they've got both the smaller things, but, you know, I think, you know, for instance, the roof, they think they can delay that for a few years.
Yeah, they did repairs on the roof, and they're actually having a company come out that is going to certify it for warranty purposes. So we can get that taken care of.
did either of the schools, make available the, capital plan, the 5-year capital plan?
I didn't see it at the high school.
Okay.
Mike sent an email out on that to see if you've seen it.
Yeah, I have not seen, I needed to get back to him, I'll get back to him in the morning, because the attachment was not there, so.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Anything else on budgets before we move on to minutes?
Can I just ask, Charlie, did you say that we're gonna have the lowest assessment out of the three?
Yeah, percentage-wise.
Why is
So,
that?
Because our school, the percentage of our, the number of students at Silver Lake is down a little bit. So, for instance, if we go from 31% to 30.5%, what that does is, instead of making everything up, a 5% increase for all three towns, it ends up being, let's say, 4% for Halifax, 5% for Plimpton, which basically their percentage of the students stayed the same, and a 6% increase for Kingston because their percentage of the students, well, think of it as sort of compound interest. Not only are you having to pay more per student, but because you have more students, you're paying that much more than the previous year.
Yeah, what I do every year is I take a look at the number of the seniors that we have, and then I look at the number of sixth graders, and I say, okay, is the number of seniors higher than the number of sixth graders? Now, and this, of course, might not be true, because obviously you could have people moving to the town. But typically, if that's the case, then our percentage is going to drop, which it has been, and should continue for the next 2 years. Now, the sophomore class only has 66 students in there. And if you look at like the third grade, there's 100 students in like third grade. So we're only going to get this grace for about 2 more years, and then we're going to see it start spiking out quite a bit.
Yeah, and that happens for all three towns. It's not, no one's being picked on because it's just randomness of people moving in and out, birth rates, things like that. So there are, people have been here for a couple of decades, the percentages, it won't go, it's usually been floating between 30 and 35 for Halifax. Depends on where we sit with the other two towns. And the same, and Plimpton, of course, gets hammered because each student to them is a larger fraction of their total number of students than it is for us. So you go out to the western part of the state and talk to some of these smaller, much smaller towns, 500 people living in the town, and suddenly they increase their senior class from 3 people to 5 people. It's not just a 5% increase, they just went up 60%.
Right. Yeah, but I kind of do that guesstimating just so that I can come back and sit there and say, and, like if you're gonna, like if we have the extra money, now's the time to do something or put it away, because you're gonna get hit with that increase in 2 years.
Anything else on budgets? We'll go to the acceptance of meeting minutes. Many thanks to Linda for writing up the meeting minutes for Monday, December 9th, 2019.
Motion to accept.
Okay.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? All those in favor? I
Aye.
abstained because I wasn't here. It's busy having the sign book. That was good. I'd rather be. Thank you again for doing that. All right, public participation.
We have,
These are for wage and personnel.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they're both listed as my role as the wage and personnel liaison, so I think that those were the paper copies of what got submitted to them.
Okay.
Electronically, we saw. So the wage and personnel, open meeting looks like it's gonna be scheduled for January 27th. And just as a reminder, the finance committee members, after it goes to wage and personnel, we will also see all of those potential changes and everything that kind of comes out of the wage and personnel open meeting. Not until much later, so that's gonna be at the end of January. All right, calendar. So we have our next scheduled meeting for sure on
27th.
27th, the same night as the wage and personnel. And then after that,
Go to weekly, right?
That's what you said the last.
yeah, we should at least hold them for weekly, and if there really is nothing on that night, then we can make the decision to cancel. So that would mean if we look at February, it'd be February 3rd. Monday.
17th and 24th.
24th.
Yeah.
17th and 24th.
17th is just birthday.
Oh yeah, President's Day is the 17th, so we can't do that now. So 3, 10, 24.
So I will not be available the 10th.
Okay.
And I will be coming back from New Hampshire on the 24th, but I should be here, depending on traffic.
Okay.
So I'll be late. I'll get here.
Thank you, folks. So 3, 10, 24. We'll do our best. Do we want to just block out the March ones while we're sitting here anyway? So that would be 2, 9, 16, 23, and 30. I will be out of the country on the 9th, but all the other ones I should be fine.
Where you going?
Portugal.
So I mean, they're gonna have,
Right, quick
earthquake.
Okay, hopefully not. Hopefully I don't break
Tsunami.
with me. Yeah.
Yeah, I should
Volcano.
Yeah.
I know one of those I can't make because I have to hire for every 13 weeks, so I'll be wait somewhere in March, but I don't know the actual date.
I'll-
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
I'll try to be good too about emailing folks at the end of the prior week and just checking in to see how everyone's schedules are looking and to see if we'll have quorum. Even if we don't have quorum, we can still have discussions. We can't just take votes. So I think in the interest of, especially when we start scheduling folks in to come in before the committee, we'll still always hold those meetings as long as there's at least one of us here to hold the meeting, just to get that information. But I think that being said, what maybe we can focus on doing on the 27th is, if this is okay with you, Linda, maybe we can sit and start planning out when folks can come before the committee. Because we probably won't do that until a little bit later in February anyway, or if folks want to come earlier, but that way we can get like our calendar together a little bit.
Sandy, won't we targeting reporting out from the capital planning on the 27th to FinCom?
I don't think we're planning on reporting because we're not even gonna, we just got the articles in. I think I have most of them. I have to check with Charlie. We're meeting next Tuesday. I don't think we'll be able to get all the information we
Wrapped up
need
by
by the
then.
27th.
Okay.
So we'll do it sometime in February, as early as possible, but
Okay.
Okay.
Cindy wants to tentatively pencil you in on February 3rd? Capital planning?
you want to pencil us in for the 24th?
Okay.
We can try for that.
Okay. I will see if, I'll see if maybe the chiefs want to come in first, because I'll be meeting with, I'll know I'm meeting with the police chief this week and probably the fire chief too. So I'll see if we can get some folks in, kind of stacked in earlier on the agenda as opposed to later, but we can be pretty flexible.
Well, for this budget that you sent out, Sandy, I know
Yeah.
you sent a bunch of stuff out mid-afternoon. Was this one of them electronically?
Yeah.
I did, but a highway and cemetery wasn't filled in yet. I'll send you a new one tomorrow.
Okay, thank
Just
you.
This one here?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else under as may arise? Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn at 7:34 PM.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, folks.